What is up, Spartans? You are listening to HVAC Masters of the Hustle podcast. And here's your host, J-Dub Moneymaker. And welcome to episode 209. First off, I want to say thank you for all the Spartans that reach out to me every single week and truly tell me how this podcast is bringing you and your company to the top level. That's what it's about, is putting these heavy hitters inside the hot seat so we could talk about not just their successes, but their struggles of what they had to endure to get to where they are today. And man, I'm super excited. This last couple days, I spent, my team as well as myself in Salt Lake City, Utah. As you all see, I'm all swagged out with Any Hour. And, one of the gentlemen that I talked to really, really impressed me, impressed my wife, impressed my whole staff. And it's an honor to have him on the podcast to share this, because as I travel the nation, I get to go to a lot of different businesses across the nation, East Coast to the West Coast. And I think when you talk about recruiting, they by far are the most superior company when it comes to recruiting and employee retention, keeping your employees. And I have a great podcast. So if you're driving, you might want to go ahead and pull over. But let's go ahead and welcome the one, the only Josh Mathews into the hot seat. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, Jason. I appreciate the intro.
Absolutely.
I feel like I need a new name.
So,
how do we turn Josh Mathews into a J-Dub Moneymaker?
Shoot. Well, I mean, you're the recruiting master, So for those of you that are tuning in right now, tell my listeners a little bit about your journey, because as you and I were talking just a couple days ago, you come from the solar background and was able to create something amazing, transferring into solar, into HVAC, and what you're doing out there at Any Hour is just absolutely amazing. So if you could kind of go over what your job title is, what your role is at Any Hour.
Sure. Yeah. Here at Any Hour, I am the director of national recruiting. So I manage a recruiting team here at our shop in Orem, and then help now on the group level, helping train and support our partner companies. And in terms of path into the company, our recruiting here really is special, but it wasn't special to me at first. I do come from that solar background. I was working as a field recruiter. I worked into the role, and I was hiring from, Portland to Florida, and it was a national electrical install company. So kind of similar roles. I actually had a friend at Any Hour. I grew up here, so this home for me. And I had friends that worked here, and I had interviewed at Any Hour previously, and they actually turned me down. Can you believe that? And but fell in love with the company. And in the process of interviewing, Dustin now. I've known Dustin now for years, and he and I knew each other. And previous to me coming in, Dustin was our recruiter. Before Dustin, actually, it was Wyatt was the recruiter. So he's always been huge here at Any Hour. It didn't come from me. And Dustin and I used to actually go to lunch every month or two, and we would talk shop about how are you hiring guys. And we always had a gentleman's agreement. I had a small market I'd hired for in Salt Lake, but it wasn't a big priority. So I always had a gentleman's agreement that we wouldn't get each other's guys, but we talked strategy and how you're getting people and how you're keeping them. And Dustin and I both love food. And so it was a great relationship, right? So just give us an excuse to go eat lunch. And yes, we came in. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to ask real quick is, what's the big difference from transitioning from the solar recruiting to the HVAC recruiting over at Any Hour?
Ooh, good question. The biggest difference isn't so much the trade. It was the biggest change for me was going from a more corporate style of recruiting to the way that I learned how to recruit here at Any Hour. I really had to get my brain rewired to come in. The way that we do things here, when I came in, I didn't like it. I thought it was inefficient. I thought it was slow. man, Dustin and I, he'll tell you the story. It's better coming from him. But he and I used to do this, right? I don't know if people can see me. I'm smacking my hands together. He and I did not get on at first. And the way that we bring people in, instead of doing that more corporate screen and phone screen and manager interview, is we invite everybody into our shop and we give them a tour. So like before I even know if anyone's a good fit, I'm spending 45 minutes to an hour with them in groups. And man, that made me feel so inefficient. I was like, I'm not being effective. I'm not sourcing candidates. So it's so different from the world it came from, but it's so much better.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that I was really impressed when I was in Utah is the way that you started your recruiting. You know, we're in the recruiting office. You have chairs that are lined up with the TV screen in front of them. But I looked at when you were talking to us and you were role playing, I looked at it as like a sales process. You know, you don't go in there and start doing your interviews and everything like that. What you do is you talk about what the process is going to look like, what the experience is going to look like today. Can you talk about the importance of really identifying, you know, the way that you start that process of the interviewing, so it's not that basic normal style that everyone is used to, because you guys bring a lot to the table that's different.
Yeah, sure. The big thing, you know, we've been members of like the Nexstar network for years and years, and we love that relationship. And they teach a system there called the service system to our technicians, right? And it's our way of reliably performing a 5-star experience while they're on call. And so like the service system, the sales process, it's all the same, right? And so we've implemented that service system into recruiting, and it didn't actually start with me. It started actually with Wyatt. Up until when we started running service, we started transitioning from new construction into service from 2008 to 2010. And that's really when Wyatt got really passionate about recruiting and interviewing. And so he's the one that really started the way that we recruit. And so I learned it from Dustin and he learned it from Wyatt. And the way that we bring people in, people expect to be sat in front of a desk first thing, and they expect to be grilled on benefits and pay and schedule. And it's intimidating, and candidates put up walls and barriers. And so we invite them in, and just like you explained, we've got the chairs and the rows, and we sit them down, and first and foremost, we want a relationship with these people. And so we introduce ourselves. We invite people into a group, which can be a really intimidating setting. And we kind of address the elephant in the room. Hey, this isn't a group interview. Don't worry, I'm sure you guys have had a group interview before, and I bet it went terribly. And most people kind of chuckle, and they're like, yeah, I have. Mm-hmm. And you let them know what to expect for the day. You let them know that interviewing for us is a two-way street. And as much as we want to get to know them and decide that any hour is better with them than without them, they also want to decide that they want a job here, nonetheless a career. And that's a big decision. And so instead of a 10 to 15-minute interview that I just grill them in my office, I was like, hey, let's go walk through the shop and let's check things out. I always ask, it's kind of fun in a group. I ask them, I really learned how to do this from Dustin. I ask them to be creepy. And it really throws them for a loop. They're like, what? I need you guys to be creepy with me. And I asked them as we walk around as a group together with our recruiting team, I asked them to watch our employees. I was like, pay attention to their attitudes, their faces, their body language. Because as much as we want to tell you about stuff here, the biggest example of any hour is going to be how our people act at work. And as we walk around, we're going to do our best to engage our employees. We're going to say hi to them and try to get them talking a little bit, because they're the ones that really show you any hour, right? We just kind of facilitate the environment. It's a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing that you were talking about when we were touring and everything is typically, and if I'm wrong, please correct the number, but I believe you say that you have roughly about 1,000 applicants that come in per month.
Yeah, right now, for sure.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, tell me about it. Especially for the past maybe 6 months, as things have gotten a little weird economically. For us here in Utah, new construction is really ground to the halt with interest rates. And so you're seeing more layoffs and furloughs. it feels a little pre-2008-ish here, but the economy is still kind of robust in Utah. But tech is, we call it Silicon Slopes. So there's a big tech element in Salt Lake too. A lot of tech startups and tech companies, and they all had a bunch of layoffs. And so it's really caused our application rate to spike recently. And so, but yeah, we get a lot of applications, and that's a little bit more of the strategy and thought behind our interviewing process. I love looking at other company applications and like their job postings, right? I like to know what other people are doing so I can understand what we need to be doing. And I see companies that get really strict on job postings, and they list about 1 million things they need the applicant to have. And at the very bottom, they say like, we pay you and we provide benefits at the end, right? But I approach much more of that like sales process, right? I want to cast that net as wide as we can, because most people write terrible resumes. They really do. And a lot of your really good technicians, they might not even have a resume. I use Dustin as a prime example, and I'm using Dustin because you know him. Your listeners probably don't, but Dustin started as a technician about 11, 12 years ago here at Any Hour. And he's the kind of guy, he really was a great technician. He's a talented guy. You know Dustin. And Dustin would never apply online, right? You're the kind of guy, Jason, if you applied at Any Hour, I'm not getting your number from an application. There's no way, right? No, like when you were running sales calls, like you're going to want someone to talk to. You want a face and a person at this company that you can ask real questions to. And so that's having a number online that people can talk to. And so my number's on the website. Before me, it was Dustin. Before that, it was Wyatt. So people could reach out at odd hours, because everyone looks to apply a job in like evenings and weekends, you know. So my phone blows up from like 5 o'clock on, you know. But I tell you, some of the best people are the people that you only can talk to at weird hours, and they don't apply from a resume. Like they don't come from Indeed.
Yeah. One thing that I really like that you were talking about. Yeah, no, 100%. One thing that I really like that you talked about was, if you don't hire the individual person, right, you ask them while they're there in front of you sitting, hey, recruit, right? Who else do you know that would be in this position? And talk about the strategy of when that conversation comes up and how you grab, referrals to get more candidates.
Yeah. The trades are one of the coolest industries, because everybody knows somebody in the trades, right? Either their neighbor's an electrician or their uncle's an HVAC tech, whatever, right? And I learned how to do this from Dustin and Wyatt, and I'll tell you some cool stories about it. But when a candidate comes in, the bulk of our candidates don't have enough experience, right? They're looking for a new career. They want to become a technician, or they want to start in the office. And part of our process is we don't want to just tell them no and reject them. That's people's worst fear in an interview. But we let them know, hey, we're looking for people with more experience. Thank you so much for coming in. It's great meeting you. Do you know anyone else that you think would be a good fit here based off of what you've seen today? And they're usually so excited to work here, they just start vomiting up names and numbers. And we'll just kind of pause the interview right there and be like, oh, man, what's their name? Could I have their number? And they'll pull their phone out right in your office with them. And we just call them up with them on speaker. So I'm like, hey, I'm with your, so-and-so. It might be their niece or nephew or whatever, right? And they get to talk a little bit about interviewing with us. We have gotten some amazing talent that way. So a few of our managers actually, Wyatt got that way. There was an electrician interview with Wyatt years ago, and Wyatt's an electrician. That's his background. And this electrician, probably to this day, Wyatt will not hire, but he was so excited, fell in love with Any Hour, and wanted to be here. And Wyatt's like, hey, we're looking for more experience. Who do you know? And he gave him his manager's number at this company, a bunch of experienced journeymen, a master electrician. So Wyatt calls them up, and one of them is now over a huge part of the company, Troy. Troy runs all of our service department. Like, Troy is a huge role, and he's an amazing leader. Started here as a technician, has been in management roles for a long time now, but he's a huge part of the company. And Troy never applied online, but Wyatt got Troy's number from this electrician, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love the way that you guys go about recruiting and everything like that. But what is most impressive to me is your employee retention. You know, you don't lose employees. And if you do lose employees, you guys have a strategy to keep them so you don't lose them. So let's talk about the employee, you know, keeping them. And if someone ends up wanting to leave, what do you guys do as a leadership team to make sure that they don't go away? Because as we all know, people don't quit companies, they quit leaders.
It's true, and that's pretty damning, but it's true. It really is. Um, I think first and foremost, like people talk about recruiting, and I've heard it before, and they give our company a lot of praise for it, but it's actually our retention that's amazing. Like if our retention wasn't amazing, I would be the worst at my job. I would be terrible. I'd be a terrible recruiter. I would be, Jason. I mean it. We have the best leadership team. Like Wyatt, Jeremy, Matt, Kevin, Troy, Brett, you name it, Mike, all of them, Dustin, like they're so good at communicating and working with our people, and they understand what they're going through. And so if it wasn't for our good retention, our recruiting would be terrible. And that was actually the biggest thing that made me want to come over is I was frustrated in my previous role about the constant turnover. I could fill a market next week, we'd lose a whole crew. Like, bam, back to zero, start over. And here people come in, they interview, I get to know them, they become friends, and they stay. And there's a lot that goes into retention. You know, you talk about a silver bullet, and I don't think there is one, but one that I've learned here, and I learned this from Dustin and Wyatt and the team here. But recruiting is retention. If you recruit the right way, you can tee up employees and future employees to have careers here by setting those expectations, having what we call like anchoring conversations, where you ask for a multi-year commitment up front in an interview and let them know you expect about that. Expect them to hold to that. It's not a legal document. Like, we don't chase people. We're not just a team of lawyers ready to litigate. But and it really sobers up a candidate. And then all the things that come out usually 6 months in or a year in that causes turnover come out up front during the interview process. Like, oh, I just wanted to work here until I am going to move to Florida, or oh, I just wanted to get experience because my buddy and I want to go start a restoration company. All of those things come out in the interview process when you take your time, and it really sets up a good retention. But recruiting is not the end all be all of retention. And so, like, there's a lot to get into.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, I don't know how much you want me to, like, we could spend 3 hours on this subject, Jason. So, like, I don't know how much you want me to talk about.
So question to you is this. One thing that I really like is one of your sayings, win, win, win. And from my understanding, it's a win for the client, a win for the company, and a win for the employee, right? Talk about the win, win, win mindset at Any Hour.
Yeah. A little history behind the win, win, win. We didn't used to have core values. And when the team came together, it took them weeks, like hours whiteboarding together. And let me tell you that our leaders do not always see eye to eye. They align, they come together. They have a lot of different experiences and opinions and thoughts. And that was one of the most hotly debated things, was what our core value should be as a company. And the win-win-win is the first core value, and it's the most important because it's a business philosophy. And so we believe success happens when we can create all three of those at once. And for employees, it really feels like a pick two scenario sometimes at work. If you make the customer win and the company win, then you have to eat it as the employee. Or if the customer wins and you win as the employee, then you make out like a bandit and then the company eats it. And so we found through processes and structure, you can reliably make it so everybody wins, and it's an ongoing positive environment.
Yeah, 100%. And I like that slogan, like you said, win, win, win. You guys have it on your socks. At the swag shop, which I grabbed a pair of those socks as well. Let's talk about what the not the interview, but the tour looks like. You know, I've been able to go from shop to shop to shop to shop. And what I notice when I go to all these shops is a lot of them are just HVAC shops, and when I talk about that, they have a warehouse, they have a training room, they have an office, but you guys have much more than that. You guys have a culture. You guys have a family. You have a gym. You have not only a gym, you have a workout room. You have a massive workout room, but then you also have one for your managers on the other side of the building, which has glass all the way around it, a beautiful view of the mountains and the snow. The basketball courts. I mean, it's not a small basketball court. You guys have a full basketball court auditorium. Talk about that, because that makes you guys so much different than anyone else. And one thing that you and I talked about was we were having dinner the night prior and we were talking to our server, right? And this guy would make an amazing any hour employee, which I think you'll get him. But you talk about, he's working out 6 days a week and he does it in the morning and he wants to be, what was it that he was wanting to be? He wanted to be a financial advisor. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so what he was doing is you were talking to him and you were finding his interest and you invited him to come out, right? So, and one thing that you said is, if I get him to come, I got him, right? I love the confidence, but tell my listeners about what is so special about that shop tour.
Yeah, most interviews start off with the company immediately trying to decide yes or no on the candidate, and they never give the candidate the time to buy in and say yes to the company. Unless they're a referral or they're a customer, they really have no idea. And the shop tour, it's just like you said, when you go do that load calculation with the homeowner, you build value and you establish yourself as an expert, whether you're a technician or you're in a sales role. But in this case, as a company, we establish ourselves as a reputable company on that shop tour. And there's things that you focus on the tour. It's really cool to show the building, because we have a weird building. It doesn't make any sense. It's like Hogwarts. We're always remodeling.
You got a Hogwarts.
Yeah, it's like the staircases in Harry Potter, and it always smells like paint and drywall. We're always moving stuff around and knocking. Been here for like 4 years. I've had 5 offices, Jason, right? And or 5 years and 4, right? But when you walk through the building and they get to see your company, a couple of things happen. There's I don't know, 3 or 4 things that are really powerful from that tour. One is the value built in you as a company, right? 2 is the relationship with the candidate and the walls that are broken down, the trust that's created as you get them talking and joking and teasing. Now, we used to have a clean shaven policy, and Dustin and I's favorite thing is to tease people about their beards, right? We love it. Now, we have beards now as a company, but we didn't for a long time. And so it's just one of those things to joke and tease about. And by the end of that tour, man, you're like, the tour really is my interview. By the end of that tour, I know who my A players are, my B players, and C players based on their engagement and buy-in during the tour. And I know kind of what things they'll want to focus on by their Q&A and what their interests are, usually what their background is. I can tell who's had technical experience and who hasn't, so that the tour is valuable. So the other thing that happens on the tour, as you walk around and really build value in your business, is you get to show the building and you get to show the systems, but you get to talk about the leadership, like the existing structure of the company, and you get to tell the story of the company. You get to build history. People care about who they're working for. They care about where the company came from. And so we use the tour as an opportunity to brag up Wyatt and Jeremy, right? And then things that they've had to do to get to where we are now, right? It wasn't that long ago that we were a tiny, small mom and pop shop. In 2010, we did 1.7 million in revenue. And now we're going to go do over 100 this year in one location. I mean,
100 million in one location. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and it has been a grind, right? And Wyatt and Jeremy, man, they outwork me every day, right? Like Jeremy starts before me, leaves after me. You'll get an email from Wyatt at 5 a.m., at 7 a.m., at 7 p.m., it's 9 p.m. Like, those guys work. And not just them, like our whole leadership team, they really do put the hours in and back the people and the process. But you get to show that to the company. And then when you do it in a group setting with candidates, they get really excited, but a little bit competitive. You know what I'm talking about, because we talked about it together. You know that that tech that thinks they're just, I'm trying not to swear, but hot stuff,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
Hot shot.
and yeah, right. And they think they've got the Midas touch, and you know what? They probably do, right? And they come into your business and they have all these demands and starting bonuses and you name it, right? They ask for the moon and they expect it. They can probably get you the moon. But when you bring them in with a group of other technicians and office staff and you're walking through and they're all here interviewing for a job, it puts that little bit of competitiveness and fear that like, oh man, I have to like earn this position. I like that fear in an interview. But all of a sudden that cockiness, that ego starts to melt away and they treat you like a real person, and they start to be like, oh man, like, yeah, hey, I was making this here, but I would come in for this to be here. And you start having those conversations. And not that we try to nickel and dime candidates, but there's power in coming in and learning as an apprentice and working through the trades and not just moving up every year to a new company for that next raise, right? There's real power in building a career.
Yeah. One thing that I also like that you do part of, maybe after the shop tour, I don't know where this comes in on there, but you do the color test, the personality color test.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we took while we were on site. And, it's really eye opener because again, your process on recruiting is you're creating a relationship, but then you're doing the color test. So when you do bring them in that room for that one-on-one talk, right? You know who you're talking to. You know what their strengths are, their weaknesses, and they're giving you that information. That's one thing, just like on my sales process, right? On my comfort survey, there's a certain question where I have them, there's 15 items. I have them pick 5 that are the most important to them, right? Because that helps me with the roadmap of where I need to go the next hour, hour and a half. These color personality charts do the same thing for you.
A little bit, yeah. I'm always careful when I share the color code with people like you because you guys are smart as a tack, right? And so immediately your mind starts working, Jason. You're like, how can I use this to find good people, right? And you start like scheming, and I love it. I'm not trying to like get that to stop at all, but you have to be careful because there's no right or wrong color code. What it is, it's a core motive assessment, and so it's different from DISC or Myers-Briggs or some of the others that are out there. And they're all awesome. I'm not trying to discredit any of them. It's just a different approach because the color code, you take it as you behaved as a child, and it talks about your childhood behavior, like your core. And we're both parents. We talked about our boys, Jason. And from the moment they come out and start moving around, they are so different, right? And the color code helps explain a little bit about that differences between us, right? And when you're interviewing a candidate and you have them take that color code during the interview process and you sit down with them and talk about it, they start to recognize that you see them as real people. And we all have strengths and limitations, right? I'm not going to show you my color code limitations. They're super long. But when you sit down with the candidate, there's so much power in developing a relationship and helping them understand that you understand them and what their goals are. Now for me, there's a lot of power, and I can start to craft a unique recruiting experience for this person after I know what really drives them, right? So like after seeing your color code the other day, the things that your color code told me that I already knew just off of me.
Red and yellow.
Yeah, red and yellow. So you like that power, A to B. You got to be productive, and then on top of that, you got to have fun while you're doing it. And like if we're being hypothetical, and let's say you were leaving and shutting down Masters of Hustle, and you applied at any hour, and you and I were having a real conversation about working here. Oh man, I would have to make sure that whatever happened with your past job that caused you to come here, there must have been some really major problems because you're someone that wants to engage, right? And you were having fun, and then something changed. And I would want to understand that so that I could show you how you were going to have it here, right? And so the color code is so powerful.
I love it. I think that is a huge powerful tool, which is something I'm going to start bringing back to my company as we're hiring and as we're growing, right? Bringing on marketing reps. I really want to truly understand who my employees are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. So that's something that we're bringing back and we're implementing. I'm having all my employees take the test so I can learn about them, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Because as a leader, right, that's my job. That's my job as a leader, is to make sure that I'm bringing everyone up to the mountain with me, And if I don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, then I'm not going to be able to do that in a timely manner. Or maybe, at the end of the day, I hate the saying, Josh, it's lonely on top of the mountain, because as a leader, that means that you failed to do your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
and the color code helps you understand how to get the other people up the mountain, right? Like you
Yep.
understand like red's power, yellow's fun, blue's intimacy or relationships, and white's peace. And like, I'm a red yellow too, so I get you on a fundamental level, Jason, right? But there are some color codes, like the people that are white first. You and I are the type of people, Jason. You could hook us up to a heavy wagon and then put a carrot on a stick in front of us, and we're going to pull the wagon to get the carrot. But
Yep.
some personalities are like, dude, I don't want your carrot. Like, don't put your carrot in my face, right?
Yep.
And some
Yep.
people are just motivated differently. There's power in knowing that. And Wyatt and Jeremy have done an amazing job of implementing that in the business. Brett's our president of employee development, and he trains that company wide. And it is so powerful in helping our employees become emotionally intelligent, like raising the EQ of our whole company and helping people understand each other.
Very, very powerful. Absolutely. One thing that I want to talk about as we're ending the podcast is, we talked about some massive things that we're going to be doing. And one of them is here May 1st and 2nd of this year, just a month and a half, 2 months away. We're going to be having an event at Any Hour. And it's going to be really cool for the listeners that want to be a part of this. Is we're going to have, I think, about 150 to 200 contractors. And the thing that is really cool is myself and Any Hour are coming together to put on this event, and it's going to be free. This is our way of giving back to everyone in this industry to really show them what's possible, because why hold this and not share it with the world, right? So Any Hour has, shop tours daily, weekly, where people just consistently come in all across the nation. So instead of doing that, we're going to bring everyone in on 2 days. We're going to have a main stage. We're going to have about 2 or 3 breakout rooms. We're going to have some great speakers from my team, their team, and bring in a couple speakers from the industry that have really good names as well. So within the next couple weeks, we'll be making those announcements. But again, this is a free event that I guarantee you will get you from the level you are now and slingshot you to where you need to go and where you see yourself.
Yeah, we're excited. When we, first started service and happened in the recession from 2008 to 2010, it took them 2 years to get rid of new construction. And we were a really small company. They had tried to keep a lot of their new construction guys, and they were learning service. If you've ever done that, you know how hard that is to train. Yeah. And there were companies that opened their doors up to Wyatt and Jeremy in Any Hour back then, and they let us come out. And man, we came out all the time. Like Dustin will tell you stories of Wyatt saying, pack a bag, and hopping in Wyatt's truck and listening to the book Good to Great and driving to Denver. And they used to do that all the time, and it really helped us. And so we're really excited to have this event. And our big hope is you can come and see what we're doing. And if there's something that we're doing that you want to take back and make your business a little bit better, that's a win for us. For Wyatt and Jeremy, that's their way of giving back to the industry when others gave to us when we were small and needed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I want to give you the opportunity on is I got over 10,000 listeners that listen to this podcast weekly. And I want to give you the opportunity because, again, I think your culture, the way that you guys operate, your processes, your procedures is extremely efficient. And anyone listening to this podcast, if you guys are in a situation where you're not satisfied, you're not happy, you feel like you're struggling, there's no growth, there's no room to improve, and you want to reach out to Josh, how can they get a hold of you to set some, maybe a shop tour up, maybe an interview? What can they do?
Good question. I might regret this, but my phone number is on the website.
Your phone might be ringing.
Feel free to reach back out. It might. But Wyatt has always been open doors. We regularly have anywhere from 2 up to like 6 companies a week come see us. This week it's Thursday. We've had 2 already. And we've always had companies come see us. So we have a whole process. We'd love for you to come, and if you're a business owner, like bring you and maybe some other people in your business that would benefit, and have dinner with us the night before, and then spend about half the day with us. And we've got a whole system down, a whole process. We'll give you the same experience we gave Jason, except you might not have as much fun as we did, but it'll be a ton of fun. And so, yeah, reach out to myself or Dustin Van Orman. If you don't have Dustin's contact, I'm sure you can reach out to Jason. Jason's got it. But yeah, reach out. We'd love to hear from you and have you come out.
Yeah, I'm just super excited to what you guys are doing and the impact that you continue to make in this industry. And Josh, like I said before we record this podcast, you know, me meeting you, you just absolutely just wowed me. You know, the way that you communicate, the way that you come across, you hold yourself very, very strong, and you represent your company very well. And, you know, it's an honor to have you in the podcast, have you on the hot seat, to really communicate to the Spartans out there what's possible. You know, these smaller companies that might be struggling in retaining, you know, their employees or, you know, hiring. And I think this episode's really going to go a long ways and hit a lot of people to really understand what's possible and what is able to happen out there without limiting yourself with your own disbeliefs and putting your own hurdles in front of you.
No, that means a lot. And honestly, Jason, like the things that you say that I did that impressed you, like I learned how to do here. Man, when I started, I didn't even have a title. Like they had me like clean toilets. I did janitorial work. I took trash out.
I did that too.
I was not the person that you're talking to today. I look at the personal development that like Dustin Van Orman's done for me and the leadership team here, the mentorship that we have from leadership training from Wyatt and Jeremy. I mean, just being here has helped make me a better person. Like that color code has helped me be a better husband. I mean, it's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. Well, it was an honor to have you in the hot seat, brother. I know you're a busy man. Until next time, take care, y'all.
No, I'm going to go check my phone.
Boom.